Well, like many people early on in business ethics, it wasn't something I planned. I was a newly minted Ph.D. in philosophy, looking for a job in New England, landed a job at Bentley College, which is a business school. So Mike Hoffman, who was the chair of the department, asked me if I could teach a course in business ethics. I had never heard of such a thing, but I, of course, said absolutely, bought his book, and then just tried to stay a chapter ahead. And that was pretty much my introduction to business ethics. And then working at the center with Mike and Bob Frederick and Judy Cam was really an education for me in business ethics. And that's really where I got the start. And anything that I've done subsequent in business ethics was really because of that start at the center with Mike. They did. What didn't change is we were always about maintaining the network and always try to create opportunities for ethics officers to learn from each other. So conferences and other such things were the natural. I think what changed was the focus and the mix of individuals who became ethics officers. And part of that goes back to those sentencing guidelines, which, though I don't think there was anything else that could have given the ethics officer movement a jump start like the sentencing guidelines did. That lit it on fire. But it also planted the seeds for changes that went on for years to come. Because when we hitched our star to the sentencing guidelines, the compliance office really became an extension of law enforcement in many ways. And that also meant that the initiative for any change and for any innovation was coming from not us, not academia, but from government and government changes. And that I think sapped a little energy from the movement. It certainly replaced that internal energy with growth, which was phenomenal. But we were growing without any real internal spark of new ideas. We were just following the guidelines after that. And that meant also a very distinct turn towards compliance and law and compliance. I mean, that's obvious from the mix of individuals who became ethics officers. Very few of the early ethics officers had a legal background. Almost all of them did later. Very few of the positions were within the law department. Most of them were later or had a close working relationship with legal. And that I think was a significant change in the focus of the organization and the focus of ethics officers. And one example, really a couple of examples here, but the whole idea of ethics and culture, whereas that was the primary focus early on, years later, when we talked about ethics and culture, it really was just to improve ethics and culture as a way of making compliance more efficient. But it was always about compliance, and that I think was a significant shift as time went on. My academic focus was really working with Mike and the others at the center. Once I left Bentley and went on to the EOA, I kept up my ties with the academic community as best I could, but I wouldn't call myself at that point an academic anymore. So I could only comment on that, what I was seeing at the EOA about academics. And what I was seeing was that they, in their journals and at their meetings, which I tried to go to for a while, it was so arcane. And they were talking about things that really often didn't have any relevance to what I knew my members in the EOA were facing. And so they became less and less engaged. And when there was centers that were still, working, those centers tended to be more retreats for CEOs who would go and, and talk among like-minded people for a week and then come back refreshed, but not much else. And so, it was hard to get an academic to the EOA or even the conference board conferences who would offer any kind of meaningful critique of what we all were doing. And I'll give you one other example. Even when there was an effort to try to engage with the academic community on surveys, let's say, to finally get some information on trends. What the business community wanted was a quick turnaround. They wanted to know a result in, say, a matter of weeks or months. But the academics saw this as an opportunity to do some meaningful research, which would take a year or more. And the ethics officers couldn't wait. I think what I found is that the critical role of the academic community early on was, of course, they were the leaders in the launch of business ethics. And then in the early stages, they served as this chief critic. They were the gadflies. They were the ones who questioned whether or not this was the right approach, and questioned the ideas and provided opposing viewpoints. I don't see that happening as much now as I wish it would. I think some of the I wish there was a more of a serious engagement from academics with business leaders from a critical point of view. But I don't see that. I think it's an opportunity, and I think it's a real need for someone to step into that gadfly role, to begin to question some of the assumptions of business ethicists today. So it would be very hypocritical of us if, when an organization ran into trouble, if we sanctioned them or threw them out. We were their support, so we were where they would come and talk about the issues, talk about their failings, and receive, the support and ideas for moving forward. So in fact, there was hardly a member in our organization who wasn't a sinner. Every corporation had some problems, some worse than others, but all were welcome. It was inevitable that some were joining for the wrong reason. But inevitably, those folks who joined for the wrong reason didn't participate, didn't last. Their programs perhaps faded, or that person was replaced by someone who was more engaged. We saw that quite a bit. So, and it was also, I have to say, the group itself was so engaging, and the other ethics officers were so engaging, that even if someone joined the association for the wrong reason, just to check a box, when they came to a conference, they were often won over, and they often said, geez, I can do more with this position than I ever imagined, and I want to. So that happened too. That happened as well.